welcome to episode 54 of Pushing Cardboard, your home for military games, history games, political games, and all the assorted gossip and scuttlebutt that goes with it. I'm recording this on May 31st, 2026. Spring is here, yard work is never ending, but I'm enjoying the occasional spring thunder shower. My interview today is with Mark and John Kwasny, two brothers who are longtime gamers, students, and teachers of history, and first-time co-designers. They have a new game on the French and Indian War coming out from Forum Square, and it sounds like a real good one. Today's game dive is Traces of Victory by Alan Vanoy, published by VUCA. This is my first go at a game in the Traces of series, and wow, this is super easy to get up and playing, and yet a terrific game in a compact 12 pages of rules. I really enjoyed it. Spoiler alert. Before we get started, I'd like to thank everyone who supports the show as a Ko-Fi patron. Your support is very much appreciated. If anyone else out there would like to become a patron via Ko-Fi, it's just like Patreon. There's details in the show notes, the newsletter, and on the website. It really helps. It pays for the podcast hosting, the web hosting, and the interview website I use. Well, it doesn't pay for all of that, but it offsets some of the costs. So I thank everybody who's a patron. Okay, on with the show. We'll have some news, some new arrivals, and general historical gaming chatter, and then we'll get on to the two features. News. As always, there are links to most of these items in the newsletter and the show notes, so check those out. In case you missed recent episodes of Live Cardboard on YouTube, episode 31 was on Ancients, and episode 32 was on Politics in Games. Both generated some good discussion, I think, so check them out. East Front from Columbia Games is coming to PC. Here's hoping it has a decent AI. AI, very a loaded phrase these days, but I guess I just mean automated opponent. So often computer games let you down because the computerized opponent sucks. So here's hoping. Cube for Me has released their magazine trays. Very clever indeed. The way they've done it is you can buy their magazine tray with or without interior pieces, meaning the magazine tray itself just is the shape of a magazine, and then all their other kinds of trays will fit inside there. So it's very easy to change from extra trays that have large compartments to small or however you want it. Anyway, check it out. If you want to buy some, of course, use my affiliate link, and you'll get a bit of a discount. Osprey Games is being sold by Bloomsbury Publishing. This is, well, I don't know if this is good news, bad news, medium news, who knows. If they land on their feet, that'll be great. Osprey Games is home to a fair number of David Thompson titles, and so to me, that's why I really want them to land on their feet, because I don't want those Undaunted games to go anywhere anytime soon. Registration for the next assembly of Game More, a wargaming convention out in Oregon, is now open. September 30th to October 4th in Albany, Oregon. I don't usually mention all the conventions that are coming up, but this was one I hadn't heard of, so I thought I'd pass it along. Also, just got notice that the Dietz Foundation has a new warehouse, and that may be neither here nor there, but along with that, they sent a notice that two of their Littoral Commander games are back in stock. I ordered the Indo-Pacific one. I think that's the one I ordered. I ordered one of them. Anyway, I'll be getting my first Littoral Commander game from them. The GMT newsletter. Well, this is always a big chunk. I'll just give you the highlights from my point of view. Gene starts off the newsletter by talking about playing Sam London's game Common Sense, an American Revolution game, and he was playing it at the GMT weekend at the warehouse, I think, with Ananda Gupta, who's the co-designer of Twilight Struggle. Anyway, they both really loved it. We're definitely blown away. If you haven't heard of Sam London yet, soon you will. He's going to be everywhere soon. He's got this Common Sense game, then Firefight Tactical and Microverse all coming out. I think we may see them all by the end of the year. I'm not sure. So we're going to see Sam everywhere. Anyway, the interesting thing about this the Common Sense game is it's a CDG, but you both play a card, and the one with the higher initiative number gets played, the other gets discarded. And twist on this is that big events have low initiative numbers, so you have to plan when to play them. You may be you may want to play some big event, but you got to be careful to play it when you think it's actually going to work. Anyway, very cool sounding system. Can't wait to play it myself. Uh, Speaking of CDGs, Iron Triangle, that's another new system from GMT. It's a new type of CDG. The initial volume is set in Vietnam. I think I've mentioned this before, but what they've announced that's new is they've added both a dedicated solo system to the package and adding some more variant rules. So it appears they're beefing up the whole content before releasing it. Expanse or Extinction. This is the next game in the Triumph and Tragedy style. It's been up on P500 for quite a while, and it's kind of been languishing there. Anyway, apparently Marco Poutre has joined the team as developer to help push it across the finish line, and he says he thinks it can be out by the end of the year. So I guess we'll find out. Anyway, all good news there. Okay, on to new games coming, and this will include some of the what's new from GMT as well. Guerre Eclair from Nuts is a game from esteemed Japanese designer Yoshiki Nakaguro. It's a two-player affair depicting the invasion of France in the Low Countries in 1940, and apparently plays in 40 minutes. I've seen a picture of it. It has meeples and cards. Looks very unusual, but I mean, I'll check it out. 40 minutes could be interesting. Worthington has 3 new travel-sized games coming. Well, really 2 in a reprint. Midway Solitaire, Pacific War 1942, and Tarawa Solitaire. Back to GMT. This one's really exciting, I think, for a lot of people. Combat Commander Adversary is a new solo system coming out for Combat Commander. The box cover or the PR material that comes with the announcement says it'll play you in any of the 24 scenarios included in the new deluxe Combat Commander box that came out a few months ago. But it also says that it's set up so that it'll play you with any scenarios that you design using the random scenario generator, which makes me think it must be able to play you in pretty much any sort of scenario. I know it's a big hefty box because it's got each of the nationalities has their own specific deck of cards for the solo bot. So it's not just a bunch of flowcharts. There's this is some kind of a card activated solo system. Can't wait to see it. This is I don't play much using solo systems, but this looks like it's got to be seen to. I just need to understand how it works. That's just the way I am with games. Anyway, another one that was interesting was Denant 40. This is another Mark Simonich Zokbon type game, except this one isn't designed by Mark. This is designed by Michael Gustafson. And you might have thought, well, geez, we just had a reprint of France 40 last year. Well, France 40 was 1 day per turn, 4 miles per hex. This is 6 hours per turn and just a kilometer per hex. So completely different scale, but using the Simonich system. Should be interesting. War Galley Deluxe Edition is coming out, and it includes, it's of course a reprint of the existing War Galley already, but it also includes all the extra scenarios that came in C3I magazine and the Salamis module. I don't know what that is, but apparently it was probably an extension for the original War Galley, as well as a bunch of new scenarios on the Peloponnesian War that have never seen the light of day. So if you already own War Galley, then I guess you might be hoping for an update kit or something just to get those new scenarios. But I see no mention of an update kit for that, so you might be out of luck. Also, this was really cool. They're doing an MBT, main battle tank expansions tri-pack. So they're taking all 3 out of print MBT expansions and putting them in one box. That's great. That's a great value. I suppose it will suck a bit if you own 2 of the 3 and only are waiting for one of them. But for everybody who hasn't dipped their toe in those expansions, that's going to be a great value for money. Uh, from Old School Tactical, Flying Pig, I should say, Old School Tactical has arrived on most people's doorsteps if they back the Kickstarter. The only news here is that now that it's out and the Kickstarter's over, Old School Tactical France, as well as the expansion kit First to Fight Poland, and the latest issue of Yeah Magazine number 16 are now all on the website because the Kickstarter period is over, so you can get all that. Adam Starkweather has a new company, Bring It On Games, and a new game. This new system is called Advanced Company Scale System, which I'm sure has its roots back in the games he did for MMP, the Grand Tactical System. It's and also I think he just called it. I think he did a couple games for Compass, where it was just called the Company Scale System. I don't own any of those, so I'm not sure. But anyway, it's interesting. But he's got his own company and he's putting it himself. The cover layout, you can see this online. It really looks like a Compass game. So other than it just doesn't say Compass at the bottom. So I wonder if this was supposed to be published by them and then they had a parting in the ways or something, and the artwork hasn't been updated. Who knows? Anyway, the other news about this one is the price is $300 US, which is, I mean, well, I don't, that's just like a punch in the face, really. That's quite the price. I hope it makes me a sandwich and calls me baby as well at that price. Who knows? Maybe it'll be worth it. Maybe there's just so much goodness packed in that box that $300 will seem like a bargain. Who knows? I still haven't made my way through all those GTS games yet, so this one isn't going to be on my radar for any time soon. Okay, well, this episode is sponsored by Noble Knight Games. If there's an out-of-print game you're looking for, they're your best chance. If you're looking for used games to avoid the new and shrink price, they've got thousands. And if you're looking to sell games, they're your best choice as well. Check out the link in the show notes, the newsletter, the website, whatever. Use it to get to their store. That way they'll know I sent you. I'll get a little kickback. I'll spend it on games. I'll tell you about a new game. Then you'll head back to them to buy more games. That's what keeps the economy going, people. That's what we call a virtuous circle. What's on the table? Bayonets and tomahawks for me. I played all the scenarios of this when it was first published and absolutely loved it. Recently, one of my PBM pals said he wanted to try it, so we zipped through the first scenario and now he loves it as well. We're on to scenario 2 and my French are pushing back against his wave of redcoats. There's so much to like about this game, starting with the pieces. The trained main troop counters, the brigades, are a traditional square shape. All light troops, including the native ones, are triangular, and then artillery and forts are circles. So it's so easy to see what's what in a stack at a glance. And then the combat is its own thing here as well. In general, each of these shapes, for lack of a better word, can only hurt like shapes, meaning light have no effect on the brigades really, but likewise, brigades can't hurt the lights. I guess the lights are just too scattered and quick for the brigades to track down. But anyway, either one may still lead to their side winning the battle despite being there no losses. Inflicting losses definitely ups your chances of winning the battle, but it's not the only thing. So a very, very cool mechanic to not strictly tie battle winning and losing to losses of troops. Love that mechanic. New games to the collection. Well, it's been a month and a half at least since last episode, and a few pre-orders have come in as well as a couple review copies. So this is going to be a bit of a list. From VUCA, I got my copies of Imperial Elegy, Traces of Victory, which we'll talk about later. Operation Overlord, which I'm sure to be talking about soon as well, as I've played that one. And Modern Tactics #1, Afghanistan, which is an interesting game in that it's a modern tactical game designed by Shane Logan, who's the designer of the Old School Tactical series. So I'm sure I'll be talking about that down the line. And of course, the first one I mentioned there, Imperial Elegy, this is a multiplayer game set between 1850 to 1920. Great power game, um, and I'm seeing people playing that all over the place. And I think this is going to be a real big game at conventions this summer. So we'll have to see. Moving on, I got my copy of Queen of Spies. I don't usually do solo games, as you're probably sick of hearing me say, but this is a game by David Thompson and Liz Davidson, and it looked really cool. I really like the art, so I ordered a copy. I got a used copy of Warriors of God from MMP. This is this is I've played this game via Vassal with a buddy who owns a copy. I don't often play games on Vassal where I don't own my own copy, but I didn't have it. But anyway, I learned this game a few years ago and really loved it. Super swingy game. If you don't like swingy games, don't play this game. But if you find swinginess adds to the fun, really fun game. Uh, I got a copy of Hunt for Blackbeard, a new game from Vocal Runke, published by Fort Circle Games, and it's just those guys. The components are just top notch, just so beautiful. I can't wait to play it. I haven't played it yet. It's one where I won't be able to play it until I get it on the table across from someone, because the whole thing about that game is hidden hidden information. I mean, there may be a solo bot in it. I don't know, but I just really want to play it the way it's meant to be played. I got my latest copy of Victus magazine, which has a game in it on the Marne. We'll see that. Venta Nuovo had a big sale on Orange Swan. It usually goes for like 150 euros or something, like some price I would never probably pay, but had it on sale for 60 euros. So I got that. And then my P500s from GMT came in. 3 days of Gettysburg Deluxe, the big package. I don't have much in my collection in terms of great battles of history. It's not my favorite system by a long shot, but I thought this one's so well loved. I thought I'd give it a shot and see if it could change my mind about that system. Thunderbolt Deluxe Edition. I didn't own either of the two original games, so I got the full deluxe box that has all three games in one box, and it's a real door stopper. Can't wait to look into that. And then, of course, the latest from Mark Herman, Army of the Potomac, campaigns of 1862 and 64. This is the next one after Rebel Fury, a game I really enjoyed. So that's all my GMT stuff. And then I got a couple of things from Flying Pigs. My copy of Old School Tactical Battle for France. That's great. Can't wait to have a look at that. And yeah, magazine number 16, as I mentioned earlier, that's out, and it comes with a game called Urgent Fury, which is a small squad battles game, sort of a squad battles starter kit, and I think it's set in the invasion of Granada, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, that's a lot for me to that's too much for 1 month, but at this rate, I'm never going to get anything played. But hopefully next month will be quieter. Anyway, guess what I'll be doing with these new games? That's right, I'll be figuring out how to store them. Luckily, this episode is also sponsored by Cube for Me. They have the best trays, the most versatile trays, everything you need. Check out my website or newsletter for my link. Use it to order their trays. They'll know I sent you. And not only that, you'll get, I think, 5%, maybe even 8% off your order. Something between 5 and 8% off your order. I can't even remember. Anyway, they're the best trays, bar none. Check them out. Time for today's game. Traces of Victory. Vuka was kind enough to send me a copy of this to look at. I hadn't played any of the Traces of games before, so I was really looking forward to this. In addition, I've played designer Alan Vanoy's solitaire game set in the Pacific and enjoyed it, so I was interested to see what he's been up to since. This is a World War II West Front game set in a period that doesn't always see a lot of interest. It's November 1944, and the U.S. 3rd and 4th Armies in eastern France have a chance to capture or destroy the German 1st and 19th Armies before they can retreat to the German West Wall defenses. And we get a lot of games on D-Day and into August 44, and then a lot of bulge games that take place in December 44. So this It's nice to see one that's sort of set in the period between those two spots where we have so many games. The game itself, it's done up in what we've become accustomed to. VUCA, superb component quality. Uh, Other than one big error that I'll get to later, at least from my point of view, but just gorgeous stuff. Mounted map with a textured, almost linen finish, and same with the box. Big pre-rounded punch-out counters, a player aid and a mounted reinforcement mat for each player, as well as a mounted turn track, and all of those coated with something that makes them feel better than regular cardstock. Makes me think they might be spill resistant or something. I haven't tested that, so don't quote me on that one. The rule book is a slender 16 pages, of which only 10 are the actual rules. The rest is scenarios, historical notes, and designer's notes. So we're looking at a very straightforward system. After setting up the full campaign, I read the rules and I was playing in 20 minutes, just like that. The units here are mostly regiments with a few battalions and brigades. Each unit is two-step with its lower values on the back, so no swapping in and out counters. It's a chit pull system, and the parent units on the chits are corps, which means under each corps there might be a dozen regiments under 3 or more divisions. The divisions don't really matter in this game. It's regiments under the corps that we're looking at. But they activate differently than you might be used to with other chip pull games. We'll talk about that a little later. Anyway, the turns are 2 days. Hexes are 5.5 kilometers across, and the stacking limit is limited to 2 units plus an HQ. So no big stacks to knock over in this one. Very nice. The map has 4 main victory point locations: Metz in the upper left corner, Saarbrücken in the center top, the Savern Pass, which is just off the center of the entire map board, and then Strasbourg on the right side, about halfway down. The Germans start mostly on board with a large contingent in Metz and then in a line diagonally down the board to the lower right. The Allies start with Patton's Third Army attacking Metz in the top right with 1 corps and a 2nd corps ready to attack into the center. Patch's 7th Army arrives at the bottom of the board in piecemeal fashion over the course of 3 activations. The rules themselves are fairly straightforward. Each turn starts with a weather phase. The possibilities are clear, overcast, heavy overcast, and rain. If you have a turn with rain, you also get mud that turn and the next turn, regardless of the next turn's weather. The weather affects air support for the Allies. Clear, there's full air support. There's a little less when it's overcast, and then none with heavy overcast or rain. As well, mud affects movement rates, of course. When the previous turn had rain or heavy overcast, then there's also a -1 DRM to the weather roll for this turn, meaning bad weather is a little more likely to continue. The game starts with heavy overcast and mud without a roll, and then at the end game, turns 9 to 12, they all have extra negative DRMs, so you're likely going to end in mud as well. As the Allies, keep this in mind as you're going to slow down your movement at the end of the game if you have to go off-road. That makes it sound a bit like a total mudfest, but without modifiers, 1 to 4 on a D6 gets you clear or overcast, so you're going to likely have a fair number of clear turns in the mid game. But man, that the no air power will really get to you when it's heavy overcast. Anyway, next up is the command chit selection phase. There's generally 2 chits for each of the side's 4 corps. As well, there's some extra special chits that are only available on certain terms. There is a Schaeff chit for the Allies. That's Supreme Headquarters Allied European Forces, I think, or Expeditionary Force, maybe, something like that. Anyway, there's a Schaeff chit for the Allies and an OB West chit for the Germans. Drawing one of these lets you choose any corps on board to activate, so it gives you some flexibility, as well as the possibility of activating a single corps 3 times in a turn. Also, both sides have a reinforcement chit, again, not available every turn. The Germans will likely use theirs every chance they get. The Allies have less actual units available as reserves and come with a handicap of costing victory points for each one used. Finally, there's a supply chit. When it's pulled, supply is checked for both sides. Any unit out of supply loses a step. Very easy rule, and really interesting that you never know when the supply check is coming. Importantly, there's a limit of how many chits each side can put in the cup each turn. It starts at 2 and increases to 4 by the end, with the Germans increasing a little sooner than the Allies. The effect being that you have all these corps, but you can only activate 2 to 4 each turn. All of that's really straightforward, but there is one twist from other chit pull games that you may have played. On board, each core has an HQ unit with a command range, generally 6 hexes. When you pull a chit and activate a core, you aren't activating all the unit of that core specifically, but rather every unit within command range of that HQ. That's very different than most games that have chit pull. And that's ruffled a few feathers, but I think of it this way. The headquarters units represent more of an area where higher command is expending resources and supplies. In any case, it works really well. There's two exceptions, though. On the Allied side, uh, Third Army Corps HQs can't activate units of the Seventh Army, and vice versa. And then for the Germans, they actually have a Fifth Corps on the periphery of the action, and if you choose to activate that, you can only activate its units as well as any reinforcements within range. It can't activate units of other corps. Anyway, this means that individual units can be activated multiple times per turn, as the command areas of the HQs are likely to overlap. So depending on your HQ placement, you're going to be able to use some of your big units over and over again. Okay, on to the action. Once you've pulled a chit and activated the HQ, you can move all the units in command range. Infantry regiments generally have 4 or 5 movement points, while armored and motorized units have 10 to 12. Now, these rates are super important, as enemy zones of control can really chew up movement points. Entering or leaving a ZOC costs an extra 2 movement points. So moving from one ZOC to another costs 4 movement point plus the cost of terrain moved into. A lot of German infantry units have only 4 movement point. So if the Allies manage to make it so that there isn't anywhere for the get that isn't moving into another ZOC, they're trapped. As well, mud ups the movement costs. There are 3 main types of terrain: clear, rough, and difficult. Rough costs extra for motorized units, and they can't even move into difficult terrain unless on a road. And rough and difficult both go up in mud turns, even for the non-motorized. So the net effect here is that zones of control feel really, really sticky. Once the movement is done, you can initiate combat with those same units or ones in the command zone that didn't need to be moved. Combat is on an odds-based CRT. There's familiar modifiers such as attacker's strength is halved if attacking across a stream, that sort of thing. Or attacking into rough or difficult terrain causes a shift of the odds columns 1 or 2 to the left. Really familiar and easy stuff. But you'll notice that the CRT is filled with retreat results, especially in the mid zone, in the sort of from 1 to 1 to 1 to 4 to 1 in there. Just a ton of retreats. You don't have a 50-50 chance of causing a loss really until you get to 6 to 1. So, well, more about that in a minute. First, a word about the retreats. There are retreats of either 1 or 2 hexes, but the killer here is you lose a step for each enemy zone of control you retreat through or into. The Allies can really chew up a few German steps this way. The other way Allies can try to inflict more losses is to risk some of their own by calling for an increase in combat intensity. You can ask for a 1 or 2 column shift to the right before rolling the dice. However, regardless of the outcome, the attacker will then have to make a subsequent die roll where they will lose a step on a 1 or a 2 for a 1 column shift, or lose a step on a 1 to 4 for a 2 column shift. So this is a tricky trade-off for the Allies due to the way the victory conditions are structured. The Allies win immediately if they occupy all the hexes of the 4 victory locations. So that's pretty straightforward. But failing that, they gain victory points each turn for each of these victory locations that they occupy. So getting to some of these locations early to rack up points is a good idea. The Germans, on the other hand, only score points by eliminating Allied units. The Allies get nothing for eliminating German units. So the Allies will be making a calculation about possible losses in victory points due to combat intensity versus victory point gains by getting to those victory locations more quickly. A clever trade-off. Anyway, after all the activated units have moved and or fought, it's time for another chit pull, and the process is repeated. Once the cup is empty, move the turn marker, roll for weather, and do it all again. So all really familiar rules, albeit baked up in a few new combinations. I was up and playing in no time. There were a few things I had to go back to the rule book for, but just to make sure things worked as I thought they did, not because I didn't know how something worked. The super sticky Zocs, for example, were one. It was shocking at first to see how a German infantry unit is completely pinned if the Allies can get a unit on either side of it. And they don't even need that second unit if there's mud and only rough terrain for the German to move into. They just won't have enough movement points. And also, I see no rule that says units are always allowed at least a single hex of movement. To the contrary, there's a rule that says if you don't have enough movement points, you don't move. So, yeah, very sticky. The Allies will need to use that combat intensity shift to speed up their trip to Strasbourg in particular. Yep, they will lose a few steps themselves, and that will cost them VPs, but hopefully not as many VPs as they're going to gain by getting to their objectives earlier. As well, if it looks possible, the Allies can really just roll the dice and not worry about losses at all and just go for the all-out win by trying to capture all 4 of the VC locations. Risky, but not impossible. The Germans need to remember that they lose no victory points when they lose a unit, so sacrifice units whenever possible to slow down the Allies. But be careful to keep moving back. If the Allies manage to cut you off from your supply, the supply rules are ruthless, and in 2 turns, the cutoff units are gone. Zones of control are almost invincible. The only time they don't apply is over rivers, but remember, most of the map has streams, not rivers. There's just rivers on either side, basically. And during a supply check, a zone of control can be negated if a friendly unit is in the hex you want to trace supply through. But note, this only works for supply checks. If you have to retreat through that same hex, it's still going to cost you a step. This is a game that can be played in a long evening, taught very quickly. There's no errata that I've seen yet, though I did find one thing that I needed to ask the designer about. There's a boatload of control markers, and the rules say you can take control of supply hexes, victory point locations, and towns, which are dotted all over the map. I could find no reason in the rules to control a town, so I asked Alan Vanoy about it, and he confirmed that towns did not need to be controlled. So who knows why all those control markers were added? Maybe they just had space for extra counters. Anyway, as I said, the production is beautiful as always. But I do have one quibble, and for me, it's a very large one. The color choices are terrible. Now, I know this is subjective, so listen, I'm not going to be persuaded by your emails stating you think the colors are great. Here's why I think you're wrong. The map is in 3 shades of green, so far so good. Patton's 3rd Army counters are mustard, great. But Patch's 7th Army counters are olive green. And the German counters are field gray, and that field gray reads kind of as a grayish green. So on the bottom half of the map, you have a bunch of green and gray-green counters that are tricky to distinguish as it is, made worse by the green background. When you really look, you can see who's who, but you can't see at a glance. So I want to say this, dear graphic designers, it in no way increases my immersion into the game when the counters are colored like the real-world uniforms. It's actually a terrible idea. Make the counters stand out from the map and stand out from each other. You don't have to be as extreme as the Avalon Hill counters of the 1950s that were pink and baby blue, but I'd rather have those than green in a different green or khaki and a tan in a North African game. I'm here to play the game, not look at the historically correct colors. And on a related note, and this has nothing to do with this game or VUCA, please don't distress or otherwise try to make fake Warren the look of player aids or pieces. They're not substitutes for real world objects. When I see a fake coffee cup stain on a game piece, I wonder what the hell the artist is trying to convey to me. It's a player aid. Anyway, rant done. Bottom line, this is a terrific game, even with a poor choice of colors for the units. At the moment of writing, it seems to be invisible on VUCA's website, but I'm sure that'll be corrected. Check it out if you're interested. It's a game with plenty of decisions, but not a huge rules overhead, which is something I know lots of people are looking for. Okay, on to the interview. I was delighted to speak with a couple of guys who are new to me. Today's interview is with brothers Mark and John Kwasny, designers of the upcoming A Strong War, The Conflict for North America from Form Square Games. Here's our conversation. Okay, hello. Welcome to Pushing Cardboard. I'm Grant Lindenberg, and I'm delighted to have as my guests today John and Mark Kwasny. Am I saying that right?
Correct. That's it.
Yep. Great. That's John at the top. For those who are seeing the video of this, John at the top and Mark at the bottom. How are you, gentlemen?
We're great, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. I'm delighted to be talking to you guys today. We'll get to this. You guys are co-designing a new game that and it's going to be published through one of my favorite new publishers, Form Square. But are you guys longtime war gamers, or what brought you to the hobby here?
We started when 15 years old, 16.
Even younger, maybe.
Oh yeah, we made our own games when we were little kids with decks of cards and the little green soldiers, and we'd set them up
Yes.
all over the house.
Yeah, absolutely. When did you start? Did you start playing hex and counter war games, or just hobby war games?
John bought Waterloo, Avalon Hill in '76, and so
Right.
I had to go out and buy 1776, and that was the beginning of it.
Yeah,
So
there you
when I
go.
was 17 and you were 19.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the jump from Avalon Hills Waterloo to Avalon Hills 1776. That's quite a jump in complexity.
Yes. Well, I always liked the American Revolution. He always liked Napoleonics.
Oh wow!
Actually,
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Our grandma, he was out of town, and our grandma took me to a toy store. Remember, I'm 19 years old. Grandma takes me to a toy store. She said, "What do you want, John?" I go, "I saw this game Waterloo." I said, "Waterloo?" So I got it. She goes, "Okay, I'll buy it for you." Grandma was always good for that.
Yeah, we had no idea such things existed before
No.
then.
Right. Yeah. I think we're all kind of in the same ballpark age-wise, and it was the same thing for me when I first saw my first war game was Tobruk, and it was just like, what? I didn't know this. I've been looking for this my whole childhood. How come?
Yeah.
You know. So yeah. So that got you the bug. You started playing hex and counter games from then on. Did you keep up with the hobby, or what's your path with wargaming and history gaming been like?
Way
Well-
too many games we've bought.
Way too many. We went to the same college, and we were in a local little game hobby store, and we were looking at games that it's like a treasure trove, all these games. And a guy we'd never seen before came up to us and said, "You guys play games?" We go, "Yeah." And so we actually got together with him, and Mark and he still play to this day. So that's 50
fantastic.
years ago. And so we played
Yeah.
pretty much straight through from that moment till today, quite
Oh,
honestly.
fantastic! You're exactly my kind of guys. started in the '70s and still going with.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that sort of take a 25-year break, sort of post college when they get married and have kids, and they get away from it and they come back. I just kept playing the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
And
my
there's
my
a few of
kids
us.
would sit and roll my dice for me, and so
Right.
now they play games too. Not war games, but they play too.
Right. And so you play all these games, and then what made you decide you wanted to try your hand at designing? I should say right off the bat, the game that you guys have designed is an American Revolutionary War game. So, John or Mark, sorry, that fits. That's right up your alley, I guess.
It is, though. Actually, the game at the moment, it's the French and Indian War.
Oh, French and Indian War. That's right. Yes. Sorry. Just pre-Revolutionary War.
We're
Sorry.
thinking of trying to use that for a revolutionary game,
Right.
but we haven't done that yet.
Right. Yeah. So what gave you the well, you said when you were very small you made your own games, but this is a couple of levels of magnitude beyond that. What made you decide you wanted to try your hand?
Well,
Go ahead.
Okay, I don't even remember his name anymore. About 17 years ago, somebody contacted me. I was listed as a co-designer with Columbia Games on their game Liberty.
Right.
In 2003. So he must have got my name from there. I don't know where else he would have. And he contacted me and asked if we wanted to make a game. He was starting a new company. And we said, sure, we've never done it. So that's what started us. Now, he wanted something bigger, more complex. And we did that. But by the time that was done, he had gone on to other things and we never heard from him again. So we had this game that we liked, but took hours to play. And we never played it. We were both working. But that's what got us started. And then we just, over the years, tried to shorten it so we could actually play it.
Right. So yeah, it sounds like you actually have a better game out of the deal, something that people are actually going to sit down and play.
Mm-hmm. We hope.
Yeah,
we
we
hope.
play it at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. So you have this game. You work on it over the years. You have the game, and then at some point you must have got in contact with Andy Rourke at Form Circle Games, who's like sort of a very kind of a newish publisher out of England. I mean, he's pumping the games out at quite a quick rate, but and all his games have been Napoleonic games using his Limits of Glory system.
Right.
But your game doesn't use that system. How did you get intertwined with? How did he become your publisher?
Well, we had contacted other publishers over the years, over the last 10 years.
Yeah,
And they
about
all
a
said,
decade.
"We'll work on this, work on that." So we kept revising and revising. Then I don't know how, I think I saw Form Square Games on. I said, "Oh,
We've
look at
been
this one.
eyeing-
Contact us, submissions."
Yeah.
So we said, "We'll take a chance." And we just sent him information and a letter. And he said, "Sounds interesting." And so it's been from there. It's been great so far. So
Yeah, and he's fantastic. I've interviewed him on the show before, and I've never interviewed a publisher who is just so straightforward as to say, "This is what I wanted to do. This is what I saw as the obstacles. This is how I did it, and it all worked out." So many stories are way more convoluted than that, but he's just like, "I'm going to do this, and I did it, and here we go."
Yeah, he's been very easy to work with. Very nice guy. He been pretty straight with us. He tested it with other people, and he said, "Hey, they liked it, so let's go for it."
And he must be. I haven't talked to him other than to get your guys' address, but he must be excited to have his first game that's not part of his Limits of Glory system.
I hope so.
he seems to be. So it was a pretty successful. What is it? Crowdfunding? Is that what they call that? Yeah.
Right.
Game found. Yeah.
Game found.
Yeah.
Right. Game found. And so we were very nervous. Of course, no one's going to buy it. No one's going to buy it. What's going to happen?
We were ready to order a bunch on our own if we had to.
Yeah.
Well, Andy's also pretty. Some people when they go through that crowdfunding process, they don't set a realistic target of a goal, and Andy's really good about like, this is what I need to break even, and anything beyond that is gravy. And if I break even, then we can go forward, right? So, yeah, he's like I said, straightforward guy. Well, so here I have let me just switch. I'm going to put the cover of your game up here so that folks can see it. There we go. Yeah.
Look at it.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. He's got good artists there. So let's talk a little bit about the game and what's was it influenced by other games? How did you come up with your design?
Go ahead, Mark.
Me?
Yeah, go ahead.
My sense is we tried to, when we started with that earlier version, just create our own. Now, obviously, playing war games for decades, everything from those is in our brain too. But we tried to just come up with something on our own. We knew what we didn't like. We played French and Indian war games that just had too much. Too many pieces, too many places, too many options, too long for what we were trying to finish with. So other than that, no, we just tried to come up with a new way of, in an hour, could we give it a sense of the history and started from scratch. I remember John had little pieces of paper on the floor, moving them around at this hand-drawn map, which I think still exists somewhere.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Still the map we have now, 15 years later, just a little nicer looking. Yeah, there you go. So it was just sort of take what, how could we make a game that we would enjoy playing? That was the original goal.
Right. And that's, I think of another guy who's has a French and Indian war game, Vokal Runki, his wilderness war game. Mm-hmm. And his story is exactly like yours. He was interested in the period. There was no game on the market at the time that scratched the itch that he wanted to play. So he just made his own. And I think that was actually his first game. And it was just because there was nothing that played the way he wanted it to play. Now, that might have been the ones that you guys found too fiddly or too long for what you wanted. But, like everybody's got their own tastes. And that's what brings designers into the hobby, I find, is nobody's making what I want to make. I'll have to make it.
That's about right. We have both played Wilderness War, including against each other. And it's a good game. But for us, it was too much, too long. we were working, so we never had time to sit and play for a few hours.
Right.
So one Saturday afternoon, we crafted this out of the old one, and in about an hour, I think, an hour or two, we said, "Oh, this will work." and then we started taking the axe to it.
Well, fair enough. Well, for the folks who are just listening to this on audio, what we're looking at right now is an overall look at the map board. Why don't you one of you tell us kind of what the map entails, and then there's also it looks to be like a player mat for both players. Sort of describe what we're looking at for those that can't see it, or even those that are looking at it and wondering what the heck we're looking at here.
Go ahead.
No, you want to do it?
No, well, the map is very close to the one we had designed. We had a graphic designer work on the map, and originally Mark did it in paint, and we had all kinds of things. But what we really wanted was to kind of get the feeling that there were only a limited number of ways for the British and French to get at each other. There weren't, multiple ways to get through mountains. You couldn't get through the mountains. And you had to travel the rivers, you had to travel the valleys along the lake shores. So we wanted to get that down so that you couldn't, I'm going to invade Canada via Detroit. You can't do that in real life. So the map kind of is our attempt at saying, all right, you're here, he's up there, you have limited access and limited resources, and so how are you gonna just deploy your resources and figure out a way to get at the other guy? And the map kind of forces you into the way the British had to go, or the way the French had to retaliate. You can't just hit everywhere at once. You can only hit one spot at a time, type of thing. And the cards, Andy came up with the cards. He wanted a player aid. We had some people tested who said it'd be nice to have a player aid. We said, we don't need that.
Just learn the rules.
Andy said, and just remember the rules, right? Andy said, no, this will help. So the cards, each side has reminders of what they can do, how battles work, how many how many units you have left, that type of thing. And so we kind of like the cards, honestly. We were too lazy to develop them ourselves. But Andy came up with them, and they really work. They look like they work really well. We have not played it with the cards yet, but it's we're looking forward to it.
So the cards, the player mats, they're not needed for the game. They're just they just have a lot of helpful info, and it's a place to put your cubes or your tokens or whatever before they go onto the board. Yeah.
I have a friend I played with. Well, I remember one day we sat and played 9 straight games, and after all 9 games, he said, it'd be really nice if all these modifiers, there's not a lot of modifiers, but these combinations were written down in front of me. And I thought, you didn't learn it yet, but he was right. I was wrong.
Yeah, well, it's gonna help new players, right? Like, it's old hat to you guys, but everybody's gonna be approaching this game for the first time. The way you described it, John, it reminds me there's another game on the War of 1812 called War on the Great Lakes Frontier, and it really emphasizes the idea that in the War of 1812, all the travel, all the action was like 95% of it was along lake shores of the Great Lakes and the rivers leading in and out of the Great Lakes. And the only spaces are along those Great Lakes, with just a few that zip off to, I don't know, Pittsburgh Landing or something like that. But in this period, lakes and rivers were the only real method of getting men around.
Right. We want to make sure. There were 1 or 2 times that they would travel overland, like when Braddock went after Fort Duquesne. He found out that it's not easy, and so we've got that in. That connection's in there. So there are some connections that are blue. You can move more units along, and some are brown, represent kind of your walking, and it does limit how many units you can send into enemy territory. So that we thought you can't take everything you want everywhere. It's 1756. It doesn't work that way. Right.
Yeah. So tell me about like, I'm looking at the board, and it looks like both sides have cubes. The British have red ones and brown ones, and it looks like the French have blue, green, and white. Are the native North Americans represented like on the French side, or maybe on the British side here?
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
The French have very few regulars. Those are the white cubes.
Right.
The French regiments that actually came over and fought. The blue cubes represent sort of a mix of local Canadians. They're not Royal Marines because that's British, but Marines. And so sort of semi-organized official Canadian forces.
Like
and then the
sort
green
of
ones.
militia.
Yeah. And then the green ones are sort of the frontiersmen, both Native American warriors and what I've heard called bush rangers. Charles Langlade and those kind of people who were out there living amongst the Native Americans and fighting with them side by side. So,
right.
Yeah, the most numerous cubes for the French are the Native Americans and bush ranger units.
Right. It's a war also where it's like two different styles of warfare as well, right? We have all the lobsters, the red coats on the one side, the actual trained soldiers, and on the other side, like you say, a lot of it's militia and people just standing up for trying to stand up for their own land in a way.
Right. Yeah. And right. For the British, the main group, well, actually, their main group is the colonial militia, the Americans who fought with them. Right. And then they have regular red units. One thing we sort of like is you can recruit, take one of those colonial cubes, take it out of the game, and replace it with a regular cube, which is nice for combat. But if you ever lose all your colonial units out of the game, you lose.
Right.
So you got to sort of balance that.
Right, because all those red cubes are going back across the ocean when the whole affair is finished. You gotta have somebody who's going to go back to the farms.
Right, and we've got the frontier raids. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And the red cubes are much more powerful in combat as they combine, whereas the colonial units are there, but they don't add any strength to an attack. And the French are the same way. If you have one of the regular cubes and a partisan cube and one of those Native American cubes, it's a powerful attack or defense. So that how you combine your troops, that's why the American might say, I'm trading in 2 colonials for 2 more regulars. It gives me more power in combat. But like Mark said, there's a balance there. You lose too many colonials, you're in trouble.
Right. Looking at the cubes part of the game, it reminds me of some of those games from Academy of Games. They have one on the War of 1812, one on 1777 and whatnot. But this looks like a step up in that game's fairly straight, like simple and straightforward. It's got some dice that are they're not regular dice. They're special dice that have special faces on them. But it's the same thing where the trained troops are more effective. The next level is less effective, but might come back, might run away and then come back. That sort of thing. You guys have taken this to a higher, another level up, where there's something going on here about combining different types of troops that makes changes.
Right, and we tried to make it asymmetrical. The British get their bonuses only from piling on the regulars. Colonials will fight, but won't add any bonuses, as John was saying. Whereas the French, they were much better at mixing all these different types of forces. They don't have a lot of regulars over here, so they got to rely on the locals. We tried to give it that feel. I've played those games by Academy Games, and they're fun games, and I like the dice. They're keyed to each different type unit. But we like this idea of the combinations.
Yeah, I really like that too. Is there, in terms of movement, it appears to me it's a point-to-point map. Is there any difference between how the different types of cubes move?
No, not really. John always said he wanted a game where you didn't actually move the pieces on the board, and that's sort of what we designed.
Oh, that's
so you can launch an attack from one of your forts against an adjacent area, and then you can commit 2 or 3 cubes depending on if it's one of those blue lines or yellow lines. And then if you win, that becomes your fort, and you can now use it as a base to attack the next fort. So the
Totally.
pieces always just stay on that little player map.
The pieces stay on the player aid, and what flips is the ownership, the
Right.
little tokens that show who owns each of the forts or
Mhm.
the stations along the
Correct.
way.
Yeah.
The idea of a game where you don't move the forces around, there's a few games out there that are a bit like that. There's a couple where you can only sort of move the forces forward one spot, or retreat one spot. That's it. I think Morris Suckling has a couple games like that. Shakos has a game, same thing. All the pieces are just sticks, and you can move them forward into the line, or they retreat. But that's it. Those are your only options. So maybe this is maybe you're on the cutting edge of a new type of game where we're not worried about movement points.
Well, especially with
moving
go ahead.
pieces around a board, it become more and more difficult as you get older.
As we get older, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you bumped the table. Oh no.
Yeah.
Now what?
There was that stack. Yes.
Yeah. Was it here or there?
And not to mention, as we all get older too, we need bigger and bigger pieces so that we can read the damn writing on it.
Yeah. Well, no writing on our pieces, just little wooden cubes.
Wooden cubes, yeah. All the info you need is those combat modifiers or whatever that's on the card in front of you there. So tell me how combat works.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay. Well, the player with the initiative, he announces what he wants to attack. He picks one of his forts, and then he can attack an area a point adjacent, connected, that he doesn't own. And then he commits his 2 or 3 cubes. And you can commit any 2 or 3 cubes you want that you have left available for that year. Each cube is only used once a year. And then the other side can respond as they please. They don't have to respond at all. They can just let you take the place for free, and save their cubes for fighting later. But let's say both sides committed 3 cubes to a battle. You then fight the battle 1 cube at a time. So as the attacker, I would place my first cube down. And then you roll a 4-sided die, which is an awkward die, but Forum Square Games has come up with a really nice way to do it. They got an 8-sided die marked 1 to 4 twice.
That I was going to say that's the way to do 4-sided dice now. No more of those little tetrahedrons or whatever they're called.
Hated that. I hated that dice every time I played it. But
yeah, they don't roll. They flop.
I like that. You got to pick it up.
I can't pick those things up. But
they're also terrible. If you ever leave one on the floor, they're worse than Lego.
Them and Legos, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so you have 4-sided dice, 4 times 2. Yeah.
So I commit a cube and then I roll the die, and that cube is worth anywhere from 1 to 4 strength, depending on what I roll. And then the defender commits 1 cube and rolls a die. And that's the first round. Now, at this point, from this time on, either side can stop. If you don't commit one of your cubes that you sent there, it'll go back and be available again next turn. So you can call off a bad battle. Let's say I roll a 1, the defender rolls a 4, and I think I'm never going to catch up on these dice, and that's it. I send the other 2 back home to be used later. Then if it goes to a second round, if the British commit a second British regular, so the first and second were British regulars, he can add 2 to that die roll and get from 3 to 6 more strength for that second cube.
Right.
And then for the French, if the second cube is a different type from the first cube, he adds 2 to his die roll. And again, at the end of that second round, either side can say, nope, I'm not committing anymore. And I'm going to save what was left if there are any left. If they both go on, then you'd add your 3rd cube. And if it was a 3rd British regular, you would add 2 more to that dice.
Right.
And if it was a 3rd different type for the French, he'd add 2. So you do this up to 3 times for how many ever cubes each. Whoever has the higher number at the end wins the battle. And a tie goes to the defender. So the defense has a slight advantage in these battles.
And is it harder for the French to get like a blue, a green, and a white than it is for the British to get like red, red, red?
Yes, because even if you don't convert any colonials with reinforcements, you'll have 4 red cubes. The French will only have 2, so we can only ever get one of those super combos, as we always called it,
right.
Of the 3 different types. So he has to be very careful when and where the French player decides to use that big combo.
Right.
You can get small ones. You can get more small combos because the French and the partisans and the Marines can give them a +2 as well.
Right.
But yes, the British regulars, if you got enough of them, will have an advantage, but that's the key. Can you have enough of them?
So when a battle is over, one side wins. What happens? Are there losses, or do these troops just go back onto your display, or what happens in terms of attrition, say?
There's no real attrition in the normal battles. Any cube that was actually used in the fight goes to the used box. He's out for the year. Any cubes that you didn't use, you called things off, would go back to your available. They can be used later. The only place cubes can actually be eliminated is out on the frontier. Only the French can launch massive raids. They both raided each other, but the French were the only ones that sent the larger raids out. And if they win on the frontier, depending on how big they win, 1 or 2 American or colonial blocks are eliminated. They're out. And so what the French is trying to do is kill off those colonials.
Right.
And if they ever all die, like we said, the French win the game. So that's the only place cubes actually get eliminated. Occupying a couple positions will eliminate French blocks, cubes. If you occupy Quebec, they're not going to be able to use one of their regulars, blocking the French reinforcements coming in. If you occupy, Niagara, you lose one of the partisans. Those Great Lakes Indians aren't coming back.
Right.
Are those the only two? I think those are the only two where you eliminate French cubes from their availability. So it's not really attrition so much. Go ahead.
And the other thing about battles, if you lose a battle, you lose the initiative, which means that now the other guy can decide what he wants to do. So if the British always have the initiative and they decide to go in and they call the battle off, they may save their units, but now they've given the French the opportunity to say, now I take charge until they lose the battle.
So as long as you keep winning, you keep initiative. But as soon as you either lose or back out, you pass it over, and the other player gets to determine. They can counterattack in a spot that's weak for you instead of just pressing the advantage where you're weak. Yeah, that's great. I love that. You said units are out for the year. How many turns? Is each turn a year, or how turns work here?
Yeah, each turn's a year. There's 6 turns. 17, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60. So in 1 year, 1 turn, you can use all your cubes once.
Right. Great.
So it's where you use it is what the game boils down to.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's really straightforward. And so we know the one victory condition is if the French manage to eliminate all of the brown colonial British troops. What's the other paths to victory here?
Go ahead.
Oh, me again?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, for the French, there's 2 other ways to win. Yeah, I love victory conditions. If the French hold out, the British don't achieve a victory by the end of 1760, the French win. But that's not really very easy. You got to hold on by the skin of your teeth. The other way is there's points. The French, at the end of each year, get a point for every one of the border locations. There's French home locations, British home locations, and then border locations that are in between. And for every one of those the French hold, they get a point. For every colonial eliminated block, cube, they get a point. The British only get points for occupying French home areas. So if the French can hold their areas, take a bunch of the central border areas, kill a few colonials on the frontier, they might have enough points to win this game early, which is one of the ways you really want to try to do it. Because as this thing goes longer and longer, the British get stronger and stronger. The British win either on points the exact same way if they can early the game take a lot of the border, several French home areas and not lose anything. They might be able to win on points. It's hard for the British to win on points. Or there's a William Pitt option. I always get a kick out of William Pitt. And he was brought in at the end of 57 by King George II, who hated his guts, and said, win this war for me. And Pitt said, okay, we're going to conquer Canada. So if you bring Pitt in, you get all your eliminated colonials back, a one-time deal. But now the only way for the British to win is to take every single French home area.
It's all
so
or
you
nothing.
want to avoid that if possible, because that's not easy. But sometimes if you got 3-4 dead colonials and the French are about to win on points, you call Pitt in and you go for broke.
That's fantastic. I love it. Super. That's like a really easy way to add a beautiful piece of chrome into the game.
We got a kick out of it. John, of course, always complained that there were too many pro-British rules, but I always had the British sympathies at heart. So, yeah, what we think it does, what it does for us at least, is creates a lot of tension for each player because there's different ways to win, but they're sort of mutually exclusive. You can't really do two of them at once. You're going to have to be going for one, realize it's not working, and shift gears.
You just sort of hinted at you had pro British sympathies here. Now, I know Andy told does one of you teach history, or is one of you?
We both
history teachers. We're both retired though.
Yeah,
both retired history teachers. Well, tell me a little bit about that and how that impacts your playing of games and your designing of this game, and it's got to intersect with the hobby too. There's nobody who plays war games who doesn't also just constantly read history books.
Go ahead.
I taught mostly middle school and upper school history, and always American history, and I have kids who come back 35, 40 years later saying, I remember Braddock. I remember what happened to him. And I said, because I would spend a lot of time on that. So I always love this time period. It's my favorite in American history. And then, and they loved Braddock, and they loved young Washington, and the whole idea of these guys coming in out of the Great Lakes, these swarms of these war bands coming down. And they were amazed by it, and they really enjoyed it. And I did too. That's why I spent so much time on it. My bosses always said, no, not so much time on the battles. I said, but please. They remember this stuff. They like this stuff. And so I also, for years, played diplomacy with kids. Oh. We played every day at lunch for years. They were the most ruthless players I've ever seen in my life. People on the same team would stab each other in the back. And I said, okay, there's room for a simple, easy war game that doesn't have a lot of moving pieces around, and diplomacy proved that a 13-year-old can play it. So we're hoping that this is the kind of game that will pique some curiosity and say, oh, what happened here in real life? We'll go read about this. But it was just we loved history as kids, and I ended up in the middle and upper school area. And Mark, I'll let you take over now because you ended up in a different world.
Yeah, well, I got my PhD in military history. With the focus on 18th century America, and taught American history and military history at the Ohio State University. Actually, the Newark branch of it, but anyways. And yeah, I mean, American Revolution was always my sort of main focus, and then the French and Indian War is because it really was almost part of the same war. Yeah, in class, if I teach a history survey that was supposed to get to the Civil War, I'd get past the American Revolution about 2/3 of the way through it, and then squeeze the rest of it in. I said, yeah, there's a Civil War we got to get to real quick here. Not that the Civil War is not important, but my interests were always there. And I have found we always wanted the history to be good in any game. We can forgive a lot of things in games, but the history's no good. We just don't tend to go back to it.
Right.
So we wanted to make sure that even at a simple level, you still got the right feel for history. No, you're not in command here. Nobody's dying, so it's not a recreation of the war. But at least you feel like you're making reasonable decisions, because history, I think for you too, John, has become the paramount thing for me in a game now. History is so good. I don't care how good the game is. That's not to insult the game. It's just not for me.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sliding scale, that the playability versus simulation. Right. Mm-hmm. But the best games can kind of combine both, right? It's if a game is good, I can excuse some of the history as long as the game doesn't let you do something that just could never have happened. That's when they go off the wheels for me. But like you said, if you in this period, if you had field armies marching 30 miles a day, through the bush. You just go that
Yeah,
we're in the loony bins here.
there was a
It's
Civil War
interesting.
game. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's just I
I
was
was
thinking about how many your interest in American Revolution and in this period, the French and Indian War period. There's so many more Civil War games and grand strategic Civil War games. Like I think in my collection, I got a lot of games. I think I only have 3 grand strategic American Revolution games and a couple of French and Indian War games. And some of them, it's a period I love too, like Bayonets and Tomahawks. I just loved that game when it came out a couple of years ago. I'm teaching it to a buddy right now. I go, this is an undermined segment of our history that we should there should be more games on. So I'm glad to see you guys picking up the or the whatever you call it. I don't know, the torch. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, well, obviously, I love it. I've, spent my entire adult life reading about it. And it ruins games for me sometimes only because I'm not saying I'm any kind of expert, but I know a lot. And I'll play a game and that one little thing's wrong. Now, that doesn't make the game bad at all. It's a good game. But I sit there, it's like watching a history movie. No, that wasn't right. So I play and I buy almost every Revolution game that comes out, but I always find myself wishing, oh, I want more history. But most people don't. I get that. Most people want a game. I want history.
Yeah, I always feel like, at least with the games, we generally tend to get it better than the movies.
Yes.
The movies really mess up the history or compress it or add a love story or what have you.
Too true.
Well, so you're waiting to see how this works out, how it sells, and how people respond to it. If this goes well, are you two planning on designing anything else? Are you're going to take it forward to the actual take young Washington from here and move him forward?
Oh, well, we've dallied with other games. We have a game we've kind of designed on the Battle of Ligny in 1815, which we like this. We haven't play tested it a lot, and we keep saying it's too big. Let's distill it down. That's Mark's idea. Cut the number in half, makes a better game. Okay. But we're running, and we also are just now starting to think. We've been thinking for a while now because we would really like to figure out a way to make this system work for the American Revolution. We think it doesn't work for the Civil War. We're not sure. But
there's not enough different types of units really for the Civil War. Everyone was sort of the same kind of armies.
Right.
So we're hoping, we're thinking about it, and we'll see if this really goes well. And Andy says, you guys got something else in the pipe? We'll say, well, funny you should say that because maybe we do. But it's so we're I guess it's a wait and see type of thing. And again, we live about 700 miles apart, so we're not always together. We talk a lot. And stuff. Right. We never have done this before.
This is good. Be able to see each other while you talk. That your instinct to make it smaller. It's not always just about how small it is. But I know talking to guys like John Butterfield or Jerry White, real wonderful designers, and both of those guys say, if there's a problem in your game, the answer is never adding something. The answer is always subtracting something. So I think you're on the right track.
I would have to agree. I did a lot of play testing. I still have for Columbia games.
Right.
Tom Dalglish and Grant.
Yeah.
Tom especially was always, too much, less pieces, less rules. Get rid of that one. I don't like it. He was very blunt about that, and I sort of agree.
They've got a great template where the rule book kind of has to be between 8 and 12 pages in just about all cases, and only the amount of blocks that can fit in that standard size box, and anything beyond that, and you're breaking their mold, and they're not gonna be interested in your game.
Right. Yeah. No, I would less. Plus, it's just decision making. If I have too many pieces, and I decide to launch a risky campaign, what do I care? I got 900 more pieces to back that up.
Right.
But if you only got 10 pieces this year, and you decide to launch a foolish attack, you just lost 30% of your year's resources.
Right. Well, great. Well, so we might see a game on Ligny, and we might see an American Revolution game
Those
using
are
it's.
those are big mites right there.
Yeah. But it's good to dream. Like I
Oh
don't
yeah.
see any reason why this game won't be successful. I certainly hope it is. For you guys' sake, and also for Andy, because I really like his little company, and I like his limited glory system. I want to see that filter out and more people find out about it. So I wish you all well. Anyway, is there anything else you wanted to mention about the game or what you're up to before we wrap things up?
Mark?
Can't really think of anything. You very nicely have covered the basics, the main points.
Yeah, I think
we
we have
have
a good idea of how this game works. That I'm excited to play it.
That we're glad to hear.
yes. Should we tell them the beer story?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm all for a beer story.
years ago, he and I were up on this lake in northern Michigan, and I fish. He doesn't fish, but we were there alone, the two of us. So we had this big table. And we had 3 or 4, I forget what, games set up, and this was one of them. So we sat down one night, said, "Let's play a strong more." So I opened up a nice cold beer, set it on the floor beside me, and we started the game. And about 45 minutes later, it was one of those nail biters that came down, I think, to the final move, the final cube, the final roll. And I said, "Man, I need a beer after that." When I reached down, I hadn't touched my beer. we were that engrossed in the game. It was just back and forth, nail biter. He took Duquesne, I took Duquesne back, launched him on the frontier. He said, "All right, enough of this, Pitt." He came in and started chomping. And it literally came down to the final battle. I think it was at Montreal. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't even remember who won. I mean,
yeah, I don't
just
remember either.
it was,
we were sitting there, sweating, and the beer was still completely full. I hadn't even touched it, which I don't drink a lot of beer, but when I open one up, I'll drink it. But it was just, holy cow, what happened here?
So that's the kind of excitement we hope people get when they play it. That's
fantastic. One thing I didn't ask you is what's the playing time? The sort of average? Are we looking at sort of like an hour, 90 minutes?
Andy says we play it because we know it. We can play 30 to 45 minutes, hour max.
Right.
We tend to get a game done. I suppose if someone's brand new to it and thinking their way, maybe they think more than we do. But maybe instead of I'm going to do this.
They just don't throw the cubes.
What do you think? Hour and 15 minutes? Does that sound reasonable?
He said some of the people who were learning it took up to a couple hours, but he said they were really enjoying sitting and thinking about it. So it somewhat depends on how much deep thought you put into it.
Right.
I was sort of happy to hear that the game supports deep thought.
Yeah. Well, their beer will get warm.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that an hour is just a real sweet spot. Like, especially as a lot of people in the hobby are getting older, and they're like, I don't want to play a game all weekend anymore. That's too much for me. I don't even want to play. I don't want to they want to play a game in an evening, and by an evening they don't mean 4.5 hours.
Right. But this should fit the bill.
Yeah, an hour and a half max, I would think, once you've played it once or twice.
Well, fantastic. That's great to hear. I'm sure I'll be in contact with Andy, and I'll know more about it as it gets closer to coming out. But thanks so much for talking to me today. It's been great to meet you both and have a look at this game.
All right. Well, thank you very much
really
for the interview. Best that we watch your interviews on different places. Often Board Game Geek will have you on there. I say, okay, let's watch. But thank you so much. We do appreciate the airtime. It's very nice of you.
I wonder what their parents did to instill such a huge love of history into both of them. Or maybe it was just the wargaming as boys. Anyway, their game has finished its initial fundraising on GameFound, but soon the GameFound page will allow late pledges, so check it out. I think it's going to be a good one. Parting shots. I pretty much already gave you this month's rant when I was talking about poor colored choices for counters. I mean, the same thing goes for maps where the artist has worked so hard to make it easy for you to immerse yourself in the period or the battle, and then it's actually difficult to use the damn map. I gotta say, I think immersion is an overrated virtue, if it's a virtue at all. It's better left to role-playing games. Because if an artist's attempts at increasing immersion mean I can't play the game easily, I'm not going to be immersed in anything but frustration. Just give me a map I can use. Okay. Thanks again to all the Pushing Cardboard supporters, whether it's by becoming a Ko-Fi patron or buying swag. If you want to become a supporter, there's links on the website, the newsletter, all that stuff. There's also affiliate links for Cube for Me and Noble Knight Games. And for every episode, there's a survey. You can launch that from the link in the show notes right on your phone or from the website or newsletter. Check it out. I'm always interested in your feedback. Until next time, enjoy the Stanley Cup playoffs, and then baseball season really starts.